Okay, good morning, everybody. We're going to do a live update, a live stream here regarding the possibility for some significant tornadoes this afternoon, more like this evening into the overnight hours, into the early morning hours of tomorrow, for much of the mid-south and, of course, the central U.S. This was initially looking like more of a Dixie Alley event. Now it's transitioned to more of a southeast Missouri, southeast Missouri, northeast Arkansas event to start here, and we'll take a look at that here in just a minute. I want to take a real brief look here at the day one SPC Outlook. Right there, that's the 4 panel from Pivotal Weather. On the top left, you can see the category. That's an enhanced risk there in the dark orange for much of Illinois, Indiana, parts of Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Kentucky. On the left, or on the right side in the top corner of that 4 panel, we've got that yellow area with the shading in it. That is the significant tornado possibility. That means that the tornadoes in that area could be strong and possibly long track. That is a 10%, pretty standard for these enhanced and moderate risk days. We've got the that's been raised. We now have that 15% hail risk, probably due to possibility for initial supercells. The Storm Prediction Center has put this little yellow circle here down in the bottom left corner, right over much of Missouri, portions of Illinois, and northeast Arkansas for a small hail chance. And we've got that large red blob here in the bottom right. That is the wind risk. 30% wind basically matches that 10% tornado area. So we could be looking at tornadoes and significant wind today. Let's take a closer look at that. Pull up the Storm Prediction Center. Right here you can see the enhanced risk for severe weather. It does include as far north as Springfield, Illinois, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Nashville, Evansville, Indiana, Louisville, Kentucky, Greenville, Mississippi, almost to Little Rock. Little Rock, you might as well consider yourselves in it. You're so close. Let's zoom in on the tornado probabilities here. That's not it. Let's turn the interstates on. Nope. There you go. There's those high tornado probabilities, that 10%. We don't see a 10% tornado risk days too often. We do see them with these stronger severe weather setups, but typically we'll see a 2 or a 5%. You can see this green area here, that 2% risk extends as far north as Chicago and as far south as Houston. So basically we have a tornado risk all the way from Chicago to the Gulf Coast. So that's pretty intense. It's a very large warm sector today, a very large area of severe weather can occur. And that 5%, the tornado probabilities do increase here as we get closer. And then we got that boom, that big area of yellow, 10% with the hatched indicators in it, meaning that it is a potential for significant tornadoes. Let's look at the wind risk, and that matches that 10% area or the enhanced. So we can see some strong downdraft winds and gusty storms from this. And then here's that hail threat that was just added in that I was talking about that wasn't there earlier. This is probably due to, again, like I said, the initial supercells being a possibility in this area. We'll look at the models here in a little bit, but I do want to look at the text from the Storm Prediction Center Day 1 Outlook. Let's see if nothing's really jumping out at me. Let's take a look at the models real quick. Essentially what I think is going to happen is we're going to have a couple initial supercells later on tonight. This is a nocturnal event. It's going to occur almost exclusively at night. Although there's a slight sliver of chance that there could be a daytime storm. I think these storms are going to move off through that risk area very rapidly, probably 40 to 60 miles per hour, possibly even more in some cases. If there is a tornado on the ground, it could cover a lot of area. That's why a lot of times these off-season events, with these fast storm motions, can have long track tornadoes. These things just move. They get caught up here, and they just go. I'm getting the model ready as we speak. Here we go. Oops. Right there, that's the 500 millibar flow for about 7 or 8 o'clock to 6 or 7 o'clock tonight. See this large area of 90 to 100 knot, or 85 to 95 knot flow. at 500 millibars across portions, basically right over on Missouri, Arkansas, Illinois. This is that low pressure system that's bringing all of this bad weather here to the United States, including responsibility of a snowstorm, and we're going to look at that here in just a little bit. Let's take a look at the 850 winds. These are really important for tornadoes. You really need some strong 850 winds. Usually at least, my goal is to see for tornadoes at least 20 knots. Sometimes you can have less, and more is better for tornadoes. But you can see we're exceeding 60 knots in some areas. So that's really impressive. This low-level jet is really kicking in over that tornado risk area. And as we move this model ahead a couple of hours, you can see that this low-level jet really ramps up at night. Almost 70 knots there in central Illinois, all the way back down here to Memphis, 60 knots. This is an intense storm system. We'll look at a couple of composite indices. We'll take a look at the supercell composite. I do kind of like this composite. This is basically if you put a bunch of severe weather ingredients into a blender and blend them all up, and whatever comes out of it, that's your composite indices. So we'll zoom in. This isn't, don't take this with a whole lot of seriousness. These are to be taken with a bit of a grain of salt, but basically these higher numbers indicate areas that the models think are more likely to have severe thunderstorms, or in this case supercells. So it does paint a supercell composite of fairly high indices, greater than 10, over lots and lots of the Mississippi Valley there, the Delta regions, as far south as the Mississippi, Louisiana border, all the way up well past St. Louis. And you can see those do stay present throughout the night. Let's see what the HRRR thinks in terms of convection. Now we're looking at what's called updraft helicity and reflectivity. So this is going to show us areas of rotation in the atmosphere, as well as what the computer model thinks is going to happen in terms of radar. So this is what the computer model thinks the radar will look like at roughly 3 or 4 p.m. It should be more like 5 p.m. Move through 6, 7, and 8 p.m. You can see the HRRR is indicating what it believes is a strong supercell down here, south of St. Louis. It's also indicating some clusters of some strong cells, maybe supercells, up here in the northern portion of Missouri, getting ejected off into central Illinois. I do believe that that's a possibility as well. There's going to be a couple of different, not necessarily modes of severe weather today, but there's a couple of different focus points. But this area's got my interest here. Basically from St. Louis south to the Boot Heel, the Jonesboro area. This area right here is kind of my thoughts for the best places to chase these storms. If I were to draw an area, where I would probably be most interested in storm chasing today, which I am, is right in this box right here. I think that that's probably the best area for storm chasing. There's the terrain there is manageable, especially once you get into parts of Illinois here, maybe even the southern tip of Indiana. But also, let's take a look here at these little convective showers that the model is showing popping up all over the place. Those could develop into supercells. Again, we have to take this with a grain of salt. This is only a model. And there it's still consistent with that supercell as late as about 10, 11 o'clock moving into southern Illinois, and there it's still there on the model. So that could be a hot spot right here for tornadoes is southern Illinois. It looks pretty nasty there. But then we've got that tornado threat all the way down here as this cold front moves through to the east. That's going to spark more storms. And there, right there, that's kind of a spooky picture right there to see all of these isolated storm cells here. Boom, 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 boom. And then some sparking up along the front. These here, let me redo this here. I don't have a way to draw on the screen just yet, so we'll take a screenshot. These storms right here should all be prefrontal. If I'm interpreting this correct, the front is back, the cold front's back here, marching off to the east, and all these storms here are prefrontal. So those could definitely be the tornado producers. This one here, according to the model, is long track. That's that one that came out of southern Missouri, Boot Heel region. Also really interested in this one, and then all these little pop-up cells right down the line there. Those could be tornado producers if they get going in the right environment. But of course, take this lightly. Like I said, this is just a model, so that big supercell could be down here or up here, or may not even form at all. But you can see that's trying to line out here into a bit of a squall line, approaching 1, 2 a.m. And then we pretty much have a squall line at 3 or 4 a.m. And then the squall line is going to march off to the east, and that brings me up to my next talking point: tomorrow's severe weather potential. Got that slight risk for severe weather here over portions of Nashville all the way up to Cincinnati. This is for that the remnants of that system that's going to come through tonight. And that's mainly for that 5%. Oops, that's hail. That 5% tornado risk. Although there is a small chance of a tornado even as far east as Baltimore and Washington, D.C. So this is a very dynamic system. I do want to take a look at a couple of forecast soundings, and we might even break down the NAM model as well. And right now I'm in Memphis. I chose Memphis as a target area a couple of days ago initially, so that I could go north or south. I was originally thinking this was going to be more of a southern event, but everything's trending a little bit north. Okay, so here's trying to get something that's uncontaminated. So we'll take a sounding maybe right here at around 6 or 7 p.m. It's a bit contaminated, but still it's a PDS tornado sounding. Let's break this sounding down a little bit. What I mean by contaminated is when there's a storm in the vicinity, sometimes you'll get these, it will mess with the sounding, and a lot of times it's indicated by some hash marks there that this could be a contaminated sounding. It doesn't look like it's that contaminated. A couple of things to note: we'll look right up here at that hodograph, that looping hodograph. Basically what that is a picture of the wind profiles of the atmosphere. If you're way up in a spaceship looking down at the ground, this is basically what the wind is doing in the atmosphere. So right in, it's plotted in vectors. So if we look right here at the surface, that's our storm, that's our surface wind at 10 knots. So a 10 knot surface wind. And then we get up higher in the atmosphere, and the wind, you can see right here, starts to curve. That's going to be our rotation for these storms. Critical angle of 51, meaning this angle right there is 51 degrees. The closer to 90, the better the chance for tornadoes, but not all the time. There's many factors. Basically, this shape right here, that sickle shape, that's a fairly favorable hodograph for tornadoes. That means that storm's going to rotate with height and allow that mesocyclone to drill all the way to the ground. And even the model is indicating that that's a tornado producing sounding and hodograph. We take our attention over here to the skew-T diagram, and you can see a couple of different things going on here. We've got this green line right here. That's our dew point with height. The way these skew-Ts work is the bottom axis is temperature, the vertical axis is height. So as we go up in height at about 800 millibars, about maybe a kilometer and a half in the atmosphere, right about here, we can see we start getting this dry pocket of air in there. So as this moist air at the surface, the 65-degree air, rises with the parcels of air that are rising into the atmosphere, it's going to want to fill that. So that's going to create some instability. That's where our cape's going to be coming from here later on. You can see that capping inversion right about there. If that is a cap, it's a very weak cap, and that can easily be broken. You can also see the red line here, that temperature, as with height, it cools, so the air at the ground is going to want to rise. Elliptic condensation level is fairly low. It's darn close to the surface. Probably going to have some sloppy looking storms, and then the level of free convection right here at about 700 millibars. So that is a look at one sounding from southeast Missouri right there. Let's take a brief look at the NAM. This is the other high resolution model that I like to use. And let's see what its composite reflectivity shows. Not as much as the HRRR. However, it is still hinting at that convection firing in southern Illinois there. This is essentially, in my opinion, agreeing with the HRRR for the most part, other than the fact that the HRRR is lighting up central Illinois much more than the NAM. The NAM is really keeping it confined down here to like the Memphis area and then up toward Cape Girardeau. Let's go back to the HRRR and let's compare surface observations. And again, if you're just joining us, we've got this enhanced risk for severe weather right here. That's what we're breaking down. We'll go over a summary of what's going on here in just a few minutes, and then we will talk about the snowstorm, and then it will be about time for me to get the car packed up. Let's zoom back out. What we're going to be looking at here are the observations from the ground truth observations. So we're observing a 63 temperature over 63 dew point at Jonesboro. That's very saturated air mass, very moist. Trying to see how far north this moist air mass is getting. 68 over 68 there in northern Mississippi. Looks like southern Illinois, we've already got dew points into 57. Looks like that warm air mass is right about here, right over southern Illinois. So it looks like that warm front is definitely traveling north. I do want to compare real quick the model run to the surface observations. I'm not going to explain this a whole lot, but I'm basically verifying the model. I see 62 or so in Jonesboro, 63 in Jonesboro, 49 up there in Illinois. Yeah, so it looks like the HRRR is coming in spot on with what is actually happening. So that adds validity to the HRRR. So real quick, we're going to just briefly brush over everything that we talked about before I begin to head out of here, or at least find something to eat. So we're looking at this enhanced risk today for severe thunderstorms. This could be a tornado event. We could see many tornadoes today, even some strong ones. It is a little bit concerning in regards to the fact that it's going to be at night and people will not see these coming. You can see that enhanced risk right there. That's our main area of concern with possible nighttime tornadoes. And there's that hatched or that significant tornado risk right there, right in the middle. It includes lots of big cities like Memphis, Jackson, Nashville. I want to take a real quick look at the snow totals, or the snowstorm that's also coming through. You can see right here these bright pinks and these blues. Those are winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories, extending all the way back from Wyoming into the upper peninsula of Michigan. It looks like the UP of Michigan is almost exclusively under a winter storm warning. Let's take a look back here at home. My home weather service office of Milwaukee. Not expecting a lot of snow right there. So let's look at maybe some snowfall totals out of the Green Bay area. Let's see if they have anything posted. Yeah, boom, look at that snow total map there for parts of Wisconsin. 8 to 12 inches. That's a foot of snow in portions of Wisconsin and the UP of Michigan. That is absolutely asinine. That's today into tomorrow. Heavy snowstorm going to be impacting parts of Wisconsin and some other areas as well. Let's take a snow total map from the National Weather Service just in a couple of different areas. I'm not going to get too in-depth in this because we need to focus on severe weather. But if we look at a storm total map somewhere about here, I think this is Faith South in the from Sioux Falls, you can see right there southern Minnesota, like Worthington, Windham, and northern Iowa, anywhere from 6 to 14 inches of snow. That's ridiculous. Mitchell, 7 to 10 inches, and then those snow totals tend to taper off a bit the further west you go, but still 4 to 6 inches in much of that area, even that northern portion of Nebraska there. Some of my favorite storm chasing terrain out here. I was in the Mitchell, South Dakota area just a couple of months ago observing what we thought was going to be a tornadic supercell, but it never did produce a tornado. Anyway, folks, that's all I have for this morning. I'm going to be out there today. We're going to be doing live storm chasing. However, it's going to be dark, so we'll see how much we end up seeing. If some of those supercells do develop before dark, we'll try to get on them. My plan is to check out of this hotel here in a couple of hours, and I'm going to head up north, probably around the Cape Girardeau area. I've been talking to a couple other storm chasers that I may meet up with, and I think that's kind of the agreement that that's probably the best area right now. But anyway, you know, if you're in that enhanced risk for severe weather, you still need to pay attention anyway. And just be careful, as this will be at night. So stay tuned to those watches, warnings, and advisories. And when and if those tornado watches get issued, we'll definitely post them. Um, I'm supposed to be at home right now. There's a holiday light festival or something going on that I was supposed to take my daughter to, but well, both daughters, and my girlfriend's going to be taking them. So if there's no storms going on later on this evening, I may very well patch them into the live stream, and we will take a look at some holiday lights just for fun. Really disappointed this year. It seems like nobody's got their Christmas lights up. So not even down here. So anyway, I'm going to get the car packed up. Thanks everybody for watching, and stay safe tonight.